Fellow agents of E.V.E.N, greetings. I am Agent Anachronism, and I am broadcasting this debriefing to you from our top-secret headquarters in New York. Now, in our continued fight against the O.D.D, to defeat one's enemy, one must know one's enemy. Luckily, our enemy loves retro entertainment. Now, I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill nostalgic whatnot from the 80s and 90s. Oh no! Our enemy goes back further than that. That's right. I'm talking entertainment from approximately 1950 to 1975. Now, some of you may have grown up watching Nick and Night like myself. You are the lucky few, already one step in time with our foe. But for those of you who missed out on these critical broadcast syndications, fear not. You represent the best that E.V.E.N has to offer, and it's my job to get you up to speed. Created by producer Norman Felton to coattail on the popularity of the James Bond movies, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was the first spy show on U.S. network television. Its popularity would inspire the creation of such shows as Mission Impossible, I Spy, Wild Wild West, and Get Smart. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, how many of you here are familiar with James Bond? Of course. How many of you are familiar with his creator, Ian Fleming? Alright, respectable. How many of you are familiar with the fact that Ian Fleming was consulted about the creation of The Man from U.N.C.L.E? As I thought. While it would have been awesome in theory, not much actually came out of this collaboration due to a contractual brouhaha that occurred with the James Bond movie producers. This forced Ian Fleming to pull out of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. First person who says that's what she said spends the rest of their career in the worst secret headquarters I can find, and I'm pretty certain it's in Alaska. The real heart, soul, and brain of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was the writer-producer Sam Rolfe. This man was so influential in the creation of this iconic show and its characters that he's often referred to as the real Man from U.N.C.L.E. So show some respect. The premise of the show was simple enough. The U.N.C.L.E, or U.N.C.L.E, versus Thrush. The forces of good and world order versus the marginally better organized forces of unapologetic evil.
We entered through the agent's entrance, and we are now in U.N.C.L.E headquarters.
The acronym U.N.C.L.E was decided on long before anyone figured out what it actually stood for. And after getting chewed out by the UN for using an acronym that implied a successful but fictional spy force was in cahoots with their totally serious and perhaps not as effective world organization, Sam Rolfe finally came up with United Network Command for Law and Enforcement, which totally doesn't sound like the UN at all. The powers that be, also, had no problem sticking it to the UN by placing the New York U.N.C.L.E headquarters in the Upper East 40s, or by using this shot in every episode. While the name of the organization, Thrush, was never fully explained within the show outside of plenty of bird-related jokes, subsequent novels explained that Thrush stood for the technological hierarchy for the removal of undesirables and the subjugation of humanity. And oh brother, when you're throwing around words like hierarchy and subjugation, you mean business. Thrush had the expected rogues gallery of mad scientists, femme fatales, mugs, thugs, and masterminds. And, like evil usually does, they had more money than God. It's the only logical way to explain popsicle grenades. I wonder if we have a confections, weaponry, research and development line in our annual budget. Simmons, get the team working on confection weaponry stat! One of the most obvious tropes of the show was the inclusion of the weekly innocent. Inspired by North by Northwest, The powers that be decided that innocent characters should be dragged into the lead agent's various adventures. It also allowed for a plethora of guest appearances by well-known and perhaps not so well-known celebrities and actors like Vincent Price, Nancy Sinatra, William Shatner, and Leonard Nimoy. And yes, even Sonny and Cher. Compared to the James Bond books, even in the serious episodes when things are looking really dicey for the world, there's still a dorkiness to the man from U.N.C.L.E. that's all the fun of it. The agents dress up in ridiculously intricate outfits. They create ridiculously complex cover stories and construct ridiculous, and brother do I mean ridiculous, ways to spy on each other. For goodness sakes, it's a well-established fact in the first episode that Thrush knows exactly where the entrance of the New York U.N.C.L.E. headquarters is. I mean, all they have to do is notice all the men and women entering Del Floria's tailor shop and not coming out again for a whole workday. You can't miss it! And when your first episode deals with enemy agents infiltrating your headquarters and nearly killing your chief, I think it's time to look for new digs. Is it because the East 40s are rent-controlled? Is that why you won't move your headquarters? I mean, I know all about what the rent's like in Manhattan, but maybe you should redirect some of your budget from your gadgetry to things like security and safety. But enough about that. Let's talk about our leading men.